Biamping with mixed class amplifiers. This question comes from Isaac in Detroit, Michigan, and he writes, "Hey Paul, I have your guide, the Audiophile's Guide, the stereo." Why, thank you, Isaac. I hope it's been helpful to you. It's it's helped me understand many combinations of what might be simple ideas individually. Well, there's my answer. Good. I'm really happy with the Audiophile's Guide. We've already sold a couple of thousand copies of it. It's helping people all over the world get better sound out of their stereos, and they're doing it over a weekend. They're combining it with the Audiophile's Guide CD or the SACD, and it's really having the impact that I had hoped. So thank you all for picking up a copy of the Audiophile's Guide, which you can get at psaudio.com or Amazon, wherever you'd like. So he writes, a friend of mine, this is Isaac, writes, a friend of mine has been in the hi-fi world since the early 70s and as an electrical engineer. Oh boy, here we go. And a music lover. Good. He boasts of the benefits of biamping, or in some cases, triamping a set of speakers. Yep. So much of what I have learned is that solid-state Class D amps are phenomenal when powering bass drivers, but might be lacking with tweeters. And they break into clipping much earlier. He describes the way that a tube amplifier is better for tweeters as the way the clipping occurs. It's a slow cycle, leading to less harsh clipping when it does occur for those high frequencies. As my understanding grows, I believe you never want to touch the power levels where you are clipping the drivers and tweeters. So does it matter if a biamped setup is a mixed class if it never sees that level of power entering the speaker? Whew! All right, Isaac. Well, a long roundabout way of asking a fairly simple question, which is, if the difference between solid-state amplification on a driver, let's say a woofer, versus tube amplification on a tweeter, if the difference is in the way that they clip and you keep power levels below clipping, does it matter? I think that's what you're asking, and the question, or the answer is yeah. Oh yeah, it matters a lot. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why we biamp and triamp in the first place, because tube amps sound different than Class D amps, than solid state amps, than Class A amplifiers, Class AB amplifiers. All amplifiers sound different. So what we're trying to do is match up sound qualities where a particular amplifier shines. So traditionally, tube amplifiers are not great bass amplifiers, mostly because vacuum tube amplifiers generally, unless they're OTLs, have output transformers. And an output transformer isn't great on the bass, okay? So transformers and bass, not so good. So traditionally what we've done is we've used tube amps for the top end. And your friend, the electrical engineer, he is correct. A tube amp has a much gentler clipping characteristic than, say, a solid state amplifier, but that's not why we use them. If you're going into clipping, I don't care if it's gentle or hard, get out of it. Turn it down, because you can easily damage your tweeters and your woofers and all that. You don't want to be clipping. So let's just all agree that we ain't going to be clipping. We're going to set them boundaries. No clipping here. So we're not clipping, but we are going to tune the amplifier to a specific job. And in general, a sweet sounding amplifier, whether it's vacuum tubes, Class A, or FET, there's a number of amps that are very, very sweet on the top end that don't particularly have great bottom end, and the opposite is true. And this was more true years ago, and a lot of this is a hangover, or a holdover. I don't know how much of a hangover it is, but it's certainly a holdover from years ago, okay? So today, there are amplifiers like our M1200, probably has the best bass of any amplifier I've ever heard at any price in the world. And it has one of the sweeter top ends I've ever heard too. Now it has a vacuum tube on its input stage, and then it has a Class D amplifier for its output stage, and it puts out 1,000 watts. Yet, put that onto a tweeter, oh my God, it sounds great. And a woofer, you've never heard bass like that in your life. So, more modern amplifiers, if you make the right choice, you don't need to bi-amp and tri-amp. Older, yeah, you kind of want to head there. But that's the basic idea. And no, we don't want to clip. All right. Thanks, Isaac. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.